Welcome to part 3 of the Countdown to Doomsday, a series where I do a little review on each project in the MCU and rank them. And you guys rank them too. Today, we are talking about Iron Man 2, the middle child of the 3 movies. And unfortunately, it is treated critically in the same way. The movie, in my opinion, is pretty solid. It tackles the mind of Tony Stark, it's funny, great action, but there are clear problems that make it understandable why people don't like it. But we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. Let's take a step back and discuss why Marvel felt it was appropriate to make a second Iron Man movie before even releasing a Thor or Captain America movie. So no surprise here, Iron Man 1 was a success. Ignoring marketing and whatever other costs go into making and producing a movie, they made a profit of about $400 million at the box office. And that's 2008 money. Understandably, they wanted to get a second Iron Man movie out because they knew that one would also turn a huge profit for them. But if you look at the release dates of the movies, you'll notice something a little crazy and frankly unheard of nowadays. Iron Man 2 was released just 2 years after the first movie. That is unheard of today. Like, I'm still waiting on my Shang-Chi sequel. Where is it, Marvel? And think about it for a second, right? This was the first movie in the universe. So if this one fails, they probably wouldn't have even considered making another movie at all, especially considering that The Incredible Hulk, which came out that year as well, was a massive financial failure. So they probably waited 2 months to see if it was going to be a success. They saw that they made a bunch of money. They saw that people loved RDJ as Tony Stark, and they were like, fuck it, let's make another one. They had to put together a script, gather all the actors, make the set pieces, film and edit the movie in 2 years. Matter of fact, less than 2 years. I'm just saying, Matt Reeves needs to take notes. On a real note, this is insane and also impressive, but I think it's obvious that the rush for this movie was Disney's doing. More money as soon as possible. Get back in the sweatshop. Come on, you know how they do things. On top of this, I'm sure Marvel and Disney already thought of this movie as some sort of strongly connected universe simply because Tony Stark showed up in The Incredible Hulk as well. So, what better way to solidify that this is a connected universe than to make some sort of team-up movie? Maybe a movie where a bunch of different characters from different movies come together and avenge something. That part is never really explained, right? What are they avenging in the movie? Anyways, we get a rushed movie, a rush to tie in the greater universe for a future team-up movie, and some contract issues with some of the actors. What type of movie does that create? TLDR, the Spark Expo is this week, and people are given the spotlight to show off their creations to the world. Iron Man is the hottest thing out. There's just 2 problems. 1, the government still does not like the idea of a private entity owning such a powerful weapon. And 2, well, Tony is dying. The palladium that powers his arc reactor is now poisoning him, and it makes him act out because he's in full belief that he is going to die soon. This happens at the worst time though, as the son of someone who worked with Tony's father shows up with a functioning arc reactor and scares the government to the point where Rhodey takes one of his suits to bring back to the military. Black Widow and Nick Fury show up after learning of his poisoning and get his head straight just in time for Ivan Vanko, the MCU's Whiplash, to control a bunch of robots and create a suit of armor to terrorize the Expo. Tony and Rhodey team up and stop Vanko and take him out for good. Like I said, Iron Man 2 is funny as shit. It's like the writers saw how much people laughed during the first movie and were like, I want that, but times 20. I personally prefer Justin Hammer's humor over anything else. Sam Rockwell just did so well to portray this other billionaire who tries so hard to be like Tony, but isn't. And his beef with the Russians is so funny as well.
I don't know if you know this, but I don't speak Russian!
Tony is also pretty quippy in this movie. We got the classic fuck you Tony Stark from the senator who turns out to be Hydra and Captain America the Winter Soldier. So the movie is goofy, but it's really based on a much more serious comic, Demon in the Bottle. Not to spoil anything about Demon in a Bottle, even though it is 50 years old at this point, but Not only is this the first time that we see Justin Hammer in the comics, but this story also focuses on Tony's alcohol addiction. But alcohol isn't really much of an issue in this movie for Tony, except for that one scene at his birthday party where he ends up fighting Rhodey because, you guessed it, the big man upstairs. I'm not sure if it was Marvel Studios or Disney that wanted to change the alcoholism plot, but they wanted to remove it at least as the main subject for this movie because they were showing this to kids and, think about the sales we could get for them, all the toys. We can't make an action figure of Tony Stark drinking alcohol. Why would we do that? So the palladium poisoning was used as a euphemism for his alcohol addiction, which I think was fine because him solving the problem of the poisoning was like him beating his addiction. Just, I don't know. It's not the same. And of course, there are some great lines in this movie, like Howard Stark saying that his biggest creation was Tony. That line sticks with me so much. It's such a powerful line. It's as powerful as Yinsen's impact on Tony's morality, right? This is something that sticks with Tony to the end. It's great. And once again, I realized another line that was being referenced in Endgame was when Tony, named Pepper as CEO of Stark Industries. He said, "It's you. It's always been you," which, he also said when he was floating away in space, expecting for him to die before Captain Marvel saved him. Just, that's crazy. I feel like S.H.I.E.L.D.'s inclusion in this movie isn't as bad as other people like to make it out to be. They're basically just a plot device to help Tony get back on track before the end of the movie. But I do get that they kind of felt out of the blue in this movie, especially Nick Fury just showing up in the middle, out of nowhere, and then leaving. And they couldn't help but talk about the upcoming Thor movie by bringing up New Mexico whenever they got the chance. But still, I think the inclusion of Black Widow was great because it got people used to thinking that any character could show up at any time. And I really don't want to get into the scene of Tony creating the new element because, look, I hated chemistry in school. So I just want to say, I think it's cool that we actually got to see Tony use his brain and at least we could somewhat understand it because most times he's just jibber jabbering on and then all of a sudden he figures it out, right? When he creates Ultron, we don't see any of that. We see a montage. Most of the time, we do not see him develop and design these creations. So I appreciate that in this movie, his problem solving was shown, especially since it was integral to the plot anyways. Props to the VFX team for their work once again. Even in an assumedly shorter time frame, the effects still look great. Even though they definitely used a lot more CGI during this movie, the suits do look a little bit more glossy at times. But the Rhodey versus Tony scene does look crazy at moments where I think it's just two practical suits going at it. This movie was not received as well as the original. It made more money, which was good. But there was just too much humor for anything to narratively make sense. Like at certain points in the movie, there was no clear path forward as far as anyone in the movie was concerned. And a lot of people felt like this was more of an Avengers teaser than an Iron Man movie. The final battle with Vanko just really isn't a thing. Like it's less than a minute long. Speaking of Vanko, look, I was always so intrigued by Whiplash's design in the comics and any video games that I had seen him in. He just looks so cool, right? So when I watched this movie for the first time, I was watching it with my dad, and Vanko shows up for the first time with the whips. And, I see him, and I turn to my dad, and I say, "What the fuck is this?" Just kidding. I didn't say that. But I was thinking it. Because he really does look lame in this movie. I'm sorry, I gotta say it. He looks lame, right? And I wasn't around during the original criticism of this movie, but I'm sure that some critics and fans were not happy with that design. But what are the big reasons that this movie failed critically? Like I said earlier, they were trying to bring a lot into this movie, and they were doing that in a short amount of time. And I think that caused them to create a movie that just needed a little bit more time in the oven to be polished off. Because think about it. This movie is basically the same exact plot as Iron Man 1. Foreign guy and jealous billionaire team up to try and kill and replace Tony Stark at the top. Tony fights another arc reactor powered suit at the end. At its core, it's the same exact shit. And it feels kind of lazy, right? Of course, they had bigger problems to deal with besides the script. Like, I haven't even addressed the elephant in the room. Rhodey's no longer light-skinned. It's almost 100% confirmed that the fallout between Terrence Howard and Marvel Studios was over money, but it's not clear what the actual issue was. Some say it was because he was mad that RDJ was being paid more for him on the second movie, and others say that it's because they changed the amount that he was going to be paid on the second movie compared to what was written in his contract. Either way, this feels like the first domino to fall in the somewhat disaster that created this movie. Mickey Rourke, if that's how you say his name, I'm sorry, not good with pronunciation, I'm sure you can tell. He was another problem because he originally didn't actually want to come on to the movie because he didn't like how much he was getting paid. But RDJ managed to get him to still play Vanko by offering a bit of his salary as well. Rourke was very involved in how Vanko was shown in this movie. He wanted to emphasize the Russian accent. He made sure that Vanko had his bird, and he also wanted more scenes in this movie that made Vanko seem a bit more sympathetic. But Marvel did not care about that. See, nuance is a thing in Marvel movies that hasn't existed ever, really. It's always been straight good and straight bad with no in between or no reason to see a villain's point. Maybe besides Thanos. Even though people like to act like it's much worse now, it's always been that way. We couldn't even get some scenes that made us feel for Vanko, even though it's clear that he's had a bit of a fucked up life. But yeah, Mickey Rourke was not happy about that, and he's made that clear in several interviews. Lastly, Justin Theroux and Jon Favreau both went through hell to get this movie out. Production started before Theroux could even finish the script, which meant there were going to be constant changes during filming, and all that stress led to him developing chronic back pain. Ouch. In this fast-paced environment is why Jon Favreau left the director's chair and just continued to be Happy Hogan in future movies. So, you know, Disney may have played a strong part in the shortcomings of this film. So, yeah, what up? Just kidding. We are not doing that today. So you may have noticed that the recording of this video and the audio is just a little different from what I normally do if you're a returning sub. I'm experimenting with a new recording setup today, or I guess yesterday, because that's when I started this video. But yesterday, when I was about 90% through this video, my phone decided it was going to stop cooperating with me. So I was kind of just left stranded without any way of, you know, staying consistent and recording the last bit of this video. But today I just decided to hop back on and just pray that my phone doesn't act up. Luckily, we only have a few more parts to do. We just got to talk about the rankings. But first, let's talk about what you guys thought of The Incredible Hulk. So 2 days ago, I checked out this poll and you guys had mainly voted for it to be C tier or lower. So my plan was going to be to run through the comments on this poll and use those as some type of determinator for whether or not it should be C, D, or F tier. But I don't have to do that anymore because, you know, 24 hours after that, I check it and the votes have been doubled and it's now S tier. So that's what's going on. How do you guys flip like that? What's happening? So it looks like Iron Man and The Incredible Hulk are both going to be put in S tier for the community tier list. I guess you guys think that the MCU got off to a really strong start and it's just been all downhill from there, huh? But yeah, Incredible Hulk is going into S tier for you guys. Now on to Iron Man 2. I'm going to put Iron Man 2 in C tier. Not because I think it's a terrible movie. I really like this movie. I'm actually biased towards it. If this was strictly based off of what I think personally about this movie, I might put it in A tier. But I want my rankings to be a lot more than just what I personally think of them. Holy shit. Yeah, they're going to get a crazy noise complaint. But I'm also thinking about other projects down the line that I plan on ranking on here. And, you know, I consider Iron Man 2, despite how much I love it, it is a middle of the pack movie for sure. And I'm thinking of other projects that I also consider middle of the pack movies. I would put those in C tier. So I think that Iron Man 2 should also be in C tier. There's not going to be any favoritism in my rankings. So yeah, Iron Man 2, C tier. But yeah, that's going to be all for today. Make sure to go down into the comments and vote on the community poll and let me know where you think Iron Man 2 should be ranked. Let's see if we can go 3 for 3 on the first 3 movies being ranked in S tier. If you're new to the channel, make sure to check out some other videos on here. I cover anything Marvel, DC, anything in that kind of space, I guess you could call it. Check out my Captain Confederacy series, which is a comic set in an alternate universe where the Confederacy won, and then they made a super soldier serum for someone to play the role of Captain Confederacy. I'm telling you, it's as wacky as it sounds. If you want to see a more unhinged version of me, check out my gaming channel. Link is in the description. Right now I'm playing the Guardians of the Galaxy game and Wolf Among Us, but I also plan on playing Dispatch and Skyrim soon. But yeah, man, sub if you're new to the channel. Like the video if you like what you see here. If you think I'm stupid for putting Iron Man 2 in C tier, you know, make sure to tell me, I guess. And as always, thank you for watching.